All right, let's talk about something that's absolutely non-negotiable for any developer: keeping your application and its data safe. And today, we're going to look at exactly how to do that inside the Spring Framework.
I mean, really think about that for a second. Your application, it's holding on to user profiles, maybe private messages, maybe even financial data. It's basically a digital safe. So the big question is, who gets the key?
Well, for those of us building stuff in the Spring ecosystem, the answer is kind of built right into the framework. So it's time to meet the official gatekeeper for our applications.
So what is Spring Security really? It's not just some add-on. It's the standard framework for guarding your application. The best way to think about it is like a bouncer at a club. You know, the one who not only checks your ID at the door, but also decides which rooms you're allowed to go into.
Okay, so how does this guardian actually work? It really comes down to two core principles. The first one is all about proving you can even get through the front door. We call this authentication, or for our purposes, let's just call it the lock.
At its core, authentication is super simple. It's just the process of proving you are who you say you are. Are you really Jane Doe 123? It's just like that bouncer checking your driver's license. The system needs to verify who you are before it lets you in.
And the most common way we do this, probably dozens of times a day, is with a username and password. You provide those credentials, the system checks them, and click, the lock opens. Just like that, you're authenticated. But you know, just getting through the door isn't the whole story. Once you're inside, what are you actually allowed to do? This brings us to the second core concept, authorization. And our metaphor for this one is the shield.
Now this is crucial. Authorization always comes after you've been authenticated. Once the system knows for sure that you're Jane Doe, then it has to ask, okay, so what is Jane allowed to do? Can she get into the admin dashboard, or can she only look at her own profile? That's the job of authorization.
A perfect example is an admin versus a regular user. An admin's shield might give them access to literally everything, deleting accounts, changing system settings, the whole shebang. A regular user shield, on the other hand, gives them much more limited permissions. It's the exact same application, but they have totally different levels of power, all managed by authorization.
So let's just boil this all down. Authentication asks the question, who are you? Authorization asks the next question, now that I know who you are, what can you do? One checks your ID, the other checks your permissions, and you absolutely cannot have the second without the first. That's pretty much the fundamental rule of security.
Okay, so how do our lock and shield actually work together in a real-world scenario? Let's walk through a super common example that Spring Security handles all the time: a simple user logging.
Here's how it all comes together in practice. A user tries to get to a protected page, like their My Account page. Spring Security immediately intercepts that request and says, whoa, hold on, I need to see some ID. That's authentication, the lock. Once the user gives the right username and password, Spring Security then immediately checks their permissions. That's authorization, the shield. Only after both of those steps are successful does the user get access. And this entire sequence, Spring Security manages all of it for you right out of the box.
And that, right there, is the whole point. What could be a really complex security dance is made so much more manageable. The key thing to remember is that Spring Security is designed to do all this heavy lifting, letting you protect your applications with confidence.
And remember, it doesn't matter if you're building a tiny little blog or some massive enterprise system. Every single secure application starts with these two principles: authentication and authorization. This is the foundation.
So, we'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you've got the lock and the shield in your developer toolkit, what's the first part of your application that you're going to protect?